After 25 years, tonight Larry King hangs up his suspenders. TJ Walker, Larry King was an institution for so many years on CNN and before that on the airwaves and a USA Today column, and now he is retiring. He'll do some specials in the future for CNN, but as a nightly presence, as a daily presence, he is gone from the media after so many decades of us hearing his voice.
Well, he has had a lengthy career and the last 25 at CNN, but many of our viewers may remember him listening to him on radio for years. Back in the 70s, he was one of the first hosts to syndicate nationwide and really built his name. And a guy named Ted Turner got used to listening to him on radio late at night. Said, maybe this guy would make a good host for this new little TV network I'm talking about, CNN. So that's how he started. Larry King is a survivor. I mean, he's been around since the late 50s, starting out in Miami Beach. I mean, of course, he grew up in Brooklyn. And he's survived bankruptcies, countless marriages, and yet he's still there. The one thing he did well, to his credit, is he focused on his guest, not himself. In an era where more and more hosts wanted to be the star of the show, where it's all about me, and my guests are just sort of there as props to let me talk about me, Larry King stuck to his original focus, which is to have a guest-focused show. It worked well for him, and it worked well for 25 years. Sure, you can say, oh, the ratings have gone down, he's getting canned, but you know what? He's been on the air for more than 50 years. That's a huge success, and I think the key to it is he made people feel comfortable. He didn't try to show everyone how smart he was. He didn't try to show that he was the most brilliant political strategist. He asked short, simple questions. Yes, sometimes they were accused of being softballs, but he got a lot of information out from people.
And TJ, it always struck me as so odd that he went out of his way to say that he never used these, that he never used notes, that he would show up to the studio about 45 minutes beforehand, get some makeup done, and then he would ask questions that he thought the viewer wanted to know, which of course is a great interview strategy, but he went out of his way to say how unprepared he was for these shows and that he would just show up and that he was the voice of the viewer. And as the years went on, certainly over the last 5 years or so, some of his interviews, I mean, the sort of most basic questions that he would ask some celebrities and get different facts and figures mixed up. He kind of didn't even know who he was talking to. Maybe some of that research could have served him well, but he went out of his way to be sort of an everyman, the viewer.
Well, there was always this debate. Was he really doing this because he really cared about coming across exactly on the same level as his audience, or was he just lazy and he didn't want to do the hard work? He certainly did have a good point when he said, you know what, I don't want to read the whole book, because then I'm going to try to act smart and say, well, on page 73 you said this, but that contradicts what you said on page 122. And that would lose the audience because the audience hasn't read the book. And that's why he says, I'd rather just start off with a clean slate and say, so, Marlon, what's the book about? There is some strength to that, but as you mentioned, in later years, certain interviews like he had with Jerry Seinfeld, it's as though he didn't know Seinfeld had a hit show. And Seinfeld mercilessly mocked him.
At one point, I believe that one of Larry's questions was to the effect of, how's the show doing? And Jerry looked at him and said, my show's been off the air for 10 years. What are you talking about? So there were those moments. But, you looked at him and, it was almost hard to feel bad for him because he was this, elderly character that, you sort of sympathized with in a way. But, now the time has come and Piers Morgan is taking over the show. Any thoughts on what type of show he'll have? Certainly a different personality than what Larry is.
He's a bit of a blank slate to American viewers, myself included. He is well known and respected in Britain. He has multiple personalities. He's been a newspaper editor. He is on reality talent shows, but he also is known for in-depth celebrity interviews. So we'll see. Obviously, CNN had their pick of anyone in the world they could have wanted to do this show. They picked him. Now, you can say their picker hasn't been that great lately when you look at Parker Spitzer and John King and some of the other shows, but we'll see. I do think that primetime 9 o'clock on CNN is still a huge opportunity for whoever's hosting that show and to reach a wide audience. But Larry King, we do congratulate you on the longevity of your career. You go out with your head up, with your pride intact. Well done. I'm TJ Walker.